All right. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I will take you along I'm an architect and also professor at the University of Delft. And I'm an architectural firm in Holland, and we do a lot of reuse and transformation of existing buildings. And in this case, it's the Tinbergen Building in Rotterdam.
Ronald, we cannot hear you. Now you're muted. No, you're muted. Try to unmute.
Right, let's see. Is it now working?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. You still see the screen?
Yes.
It's a bit weird, no?
It's not in present. It's showing in between the two slides.
Yeah. And now it's okay?
Perfect. Okay.
All right. Sorry for that. Yeah. So let's try again. So first, I will explain a little bit about our position as architects and designers. And I think it's important we always use these quotes of Stuart Brand. And the left one explains that in a way, every building you're designing is always a prediction of how it will be used, how the site will evolve, how technology will evolve. And the only thing you have to be sure of and aware of is that we are always wrong. As people, as architects, we never know exactly how something will be used. So when you're working with new buildings, but also with existing ones, you will see that the demands have changed in time. And we try to solve that by using sharing layers so that you have the structure, the facade system, the rest of the fit out. Everything is a separate layer which can change in its own rhythm. And so that's why we design buildings like kit of parts. You can assemble them on site. They're prefabricated, they're lightweight, and we can use either bio-based materials, reclaimed materials, or newly built. And that seems a bit off if you take a look at existing buildings, but actually this thinking in kit of parts, which are always made to measure of each project, also helps when you're working with an existing building. And usually we say, okay, let's mimic nature, a little bit like Nervi does. I think he makes very beautiful structures which almost look like nature, and we are very efficient by that. We're using only material where you need it. It's the same with the skeleton of this animal. It only has structure where it's needed. It works very well together with all the muscles and all the intestines, and it looks beautiful at the same time. So can we make buildings which are very lightweight and integrally designed, like nature does? And if you look then at the environmental impact, you look at the carbon footprint, you can see that structure and skin are the most important ones. So when you're redesigning a building with using existing, the structure is one of the main things to focus on. Well, this building, the Tinbergen Building, is not a lightweight building. It's a brutalist building from 1970. A lot of concrete, heavy materials. But also there is a separation between the fit out on the inside and the main structure on the outside. It was built as one of the first buildings of the Erasmus University, which used to be a higher school, but it became a university in the 60s, halfway the 60s, named after Erasmus, the famous philosopher from the Middle Ages. And it's a university focusing on economy. So it's basically everything about economy, and they went in the 60s to a new campus, which is outside of the city center of Rotterdam, in the polders, which we have in Holland typically. And it was the first building cluster to be built. So the Tinbergen Building is one of the first buildings to be built. On the left, you see the old first built part. You see a lot of parking places, the high-rise and some lower parts in between. And on the right, you see the current status, where you can see that it hasn't been fully built by now. And it's changed a lot, the campus. Lots of extra buildings, which you see on the lower part of this drawing. The dotted lines, the double dotted lines, are a sort of a square with a parking garage underneath. That's where all the cars went, which used to be on site. And you can see that the original buildings are sort of placed in a green park. It used to be parking lots, is now a park-like setting. So they really emphasized the quality of this building by placing it in a more natural area. But by that also the entrances and the use has changed as well. So we need to find a new entrance for this building as well. Yeah, so what used to be a parking lot where you would enter the complex is now a green park. The heart of the campus, the beginning of the campus, was this cluster of buildings. So it had the high-rise, which I'm discussing, with offices, research spaces, education rooms, and a restaurant in the plinth. It was on a raised square, so there's a terrain level difference between the street on the front and the square in the back. And around this raised square, there were the auditorium rooms, the lecture rooms, the study rooms, and in the water was the library. It was designed by Cornelius Elvers between 1962 and 1970. And Cornelius Elvers was a designer which was born in he was born in the 19th century. He used to work at the famous office of Brinkmann van der Vlucht in the 30s, and he built his own buildings you can see them below, more in a traditional style. But after the war, he switched to the more modernist international style approach, which is also his masterwork is supposed to be this complex of the campus Woudenstein, with building H as the high rise. You can see it here under construction. And it's a really nice complex. It's sort of brute concrete with visual planks. You have this sort of brise soleil on the right, on the square side, where the restaurant is in now. You see all the nice detailing. You see all the planks of all the concrete, integrated artworks. You can see on the right picture, you see something of Karel Appel, the famous Dutch expressionist painter. And also the lecture room, which is another building, was on the raised square, which has this brise soleil, which we know from Le Corbusier, of course. And that one was already renovated. And the main renovation architect of both the lecture rooms and the auditorium was also the heritage advisor of the university. So we had to discuss with him and deal with him. And he sort of renovated this part. This is the main lecture room. On the right are the lecture rooms, on the left is the square, and this is the sort of flow area. And our building was this one. It's a high-rise slab. You can see that the glass has changed in time. Yeah? So the windows on the lower parts have a different color than above. You can see the staircase, which is an expressive element on the left. You see a connecting bridge, which is typical of the time, both on the right as on the left side. And if you look very closely, you can see that the pergola, which we saw in the beginning, the horizontal pergola, is now part of the building. So they put some insulated panels on the side and put glass underneath. So we lost the brise soleil there. But still, there's lots to enjoy, although there's some extra technical stuff on top. You see the artwork, and on top there's some cooling device. You can see the nice staircase ending at the square area of the building. In the inside, it's very narrow and dark in a way, but you see all this beautiful concrete and thick wood applied here. But in the interior, you don't notice that much. You can see that the central core has been painted white, so you lost the original concrete color. And you see lots of very standard suspended ceilings. Some nice marble details, weirdly enough, at the staircase, at the lifts. And in some areas, it's just nothingness. You don't understand anything of the quality of the building. It just seems like you're anywhere. Here you see the raised square, and there were offices underneath with the patio in the center. You can see the high-rise up front with the different facades. And you can see that they closed off with these gray panels and the glass facade underneath the original pergola. So what to do? It's a high rise. It's offices, it's education rooms, and it has some restaurant facilities for the whole campus and for this building. And how can this building be more integrated on the current status of the campus with the current flows and the current uses, which are different than they were in the 60s? Um, so we sort of looked at the different parts. So you had the plinth, the middle part, the corpus, and of course the capital, the top, the crown of the building. And the main issues were sort of here. There was a faculty club for meeting for the whole faculty, which is very insulated, and that can be more expressive and better used for more people. There was this concrete slab, which was sort of blocking the relation between the flow of the building with the lifts and the staircases and the usable space. And at the feet, you have this cluster of building blocks, which were original and also added to in time, which block the connection to the raised square from the outside. So you always have to go through the building with a very small entrance. It's also like a mice hole, where you have to go into this huge building and then find your way through small alleys, small hallways, which doesn't really work for these big flows and this sort of meeting you want to have in a public building. So we said, okay, let's start with the plinth. Let's open up the entrance, make it bigger, make it more for social gathering and meeting. And let's open the flow on the right to the square. So let's connect the outside of the street with the raised outside of the square without entering the building. And we add a crown on top of it with the faculty club and meeting rooms as a sort of a beacon of the campus, because it's also the most visible part of the building. So I'll go through the foundations, the core, and the crown. First, we see the foundations. You can see the split level. If you look carefully, the left is higher than the right. And we look at the whole part of the building, everything underneath the sort of concrete table structure of the high rise. You can recognize thick concrete. And you can see there's the artworks, there's the height levels, the nice concrete. And this is how the section used to be. So clearly you recognize a repetitive high rise. You see the big table structure of concrete with the heavy elephant feet underneath. And there's a cluster of rooms, which is mainly technical rooms here in the center. Then there's a small lecture room on the right in the plinth on the street level. And on top, there's a small restaurant and some meeting rooms in other restaurant areas. And you can see the original canopy on the left. And so this is our main proposal. So it's finding the hidden potential of the building. This sort of table structure is really nice. The skylights are actually very nice, but they were not very visible. And we said, okay, let's make a new entrance at the plinth on the right, open up the heart of this extension of the building, and then see the skylights and opening them up again. And do something similar to the left, to the central part underneath the table structure with a lot of restaurant and meeting areas, making it the whole plinth on 2 levels, a very social, interactive space for working, discussing, eating. And let's reconstruct the original pergola on the left on the square side. So the ground floor used to be like this, very closed off and fragmented, a lot of installation room. The plaza level would be this, quite small. And this is what it looks like just before we started. And you can see the overhanging part on the left of the building, and we use that as the new entrance, as you can see over here. And so we added, it's recognizable. We don't have frames there for the glass. It's very transparent. But we just added underneath the overhang a new glass plane and a new main entrance in the heart of the building instead of going through the mice hole on the other part. This used to be the restaurant on the first floor, and you can see that underneath the suspended ceilings, the skylights are a little bit visible, but it's not really part of the architecture and how you see it. You don't see the concrete anymore. So what we did is we opened it up, and you can see here we cut out the floor, and we took all the suspended ceilings away, and you can now see the original concrete structure above of the skylights. And in the future, it will look like this. We reintroduced the wooden planks between the concrete, which used to be the theme in all the old buildings. So it's sort of bringing back the old atmosphere. But if there are new additions, we show them also as being new additions, like the facades or the roof lights. But you can see now that you enter here, there's a coffee on the ground floor. You take these huge stairs upstairs. It's nice skylights above you. And on the left, there's the rest of the restaurant and the main entrance to the lifts to go to the offices and educational facilities. So on the first floor, square level, you see it like this, cutting open. And we now step to the left. You see the new restaurant area, some dining areas, some meeting space also on the other side of the void. And everywhere you see the concrete columns, you see the concrete structure of the roof lights. So we really bring back the visual quality in a way that didn't used to be there actually, because there's only suspended ceilings and very low. So we found a hidden potential of this nice structure and use it to our advantage to make the social area here. And we opened up the connection from the street to the Lorraine Square, but keeping part of the bridge as it was, because it's sort of typical of these buildings that they are connected at the heights, at the higher levels, so 2 levels in this case. But here you can see we can go underneath and go up to the square without entering a building, which we think is an added quality and also socially much safer than having this sort of cramped, closed parts. Then we go to the corpus of the building, the high rise, the main part of it. Let's start with the facade. You can see that the concrete was still very visible there as well. And on the left, you see the original pattern of the glass windows, which was the first application of aluminium, one of the first of aluminium frames in Holland. And they are just square, a very quiet, visually quiet, repetitive system. Through time, they added stuff to it. They still kept the old frames, but they added operable parts. You see the aluminium ones, every 3.60 meters. And they have not very different color of glass, so a little bit bluish, greenish even, different types. So we thought, okay, how are we going to improve on this? The first thing, what can we, you can see the center of the current situation, which it has grown in time. We needed to have rooms every 180, which is actually terrible because it's very small, but we needed operable parts every 180 as well. So how can we not interfere with the visual impact of this listed building? So we said, let's go back to the square images we used to have. We investigated the middle sketch if we could just add a frame like we did in the past into the existing aluminium frames, keeping the original material, which from a heritage point of view is a good quality. Or we replace the frames with new ones and integrate the same lock in there. And instead of making big windows, we made very small slots, also better for the wind on height. And it's part of the rhythm of the facade. So you see sort of a squarish facade rhythm in the glass, although it has changed, obviously. You can see that we insulated on the left, that we insulated the facade from behind, from the inside. The concrete was not visible at all, so it was the easiest way to solve it. And add the glass at the same position as it used to be. So the concrete on the outside looks the same. We cleaned it, and we had a whole protocol to solve that. This is the original drawings. For people who like that kind of stuff, it's always nice. I like it. These hand-drawn drawings. And we made a big protocol and documents in our technical descriptions how to go about with cleaning the concrete. And one of the main things, without going all through all the lines, is that we said, well, it's more important that the visual quality is kept than that it's really cleaned very well. And so to make sure that it keeps the texture of the planks, you don't add to it, and if you have to do it, it's very specific in color and methods, just to keep it very original. And we made this document together with the restoration architect of the campus itself. Look at the floor plans, they used to be like this. You can see that there's a staircase on the left with the lifts. Then there's a concrete slab giving stability to the whole building, solving the shear. And there's a double concrete wall in the center of the building with an extra staircase in the back. And on the sides, it's just columns with the facade and different layouts. But it was really, you didn't see much of it. Just some of the concrete, sometimes painted. You saw the facades on the right with a lot of suspended ceilings. So, but at the spots where you could still see the old concrete, we lacked that quality. So we said we have to bring it back and clean it where needed and make it part of the architecture and identity of the building. When you get out of the lift, you saw this very closed stability elements of shear. And if you enter the building, it was on the floor, it was on the right through the small blue door. So it was not very welcoming. So they had to put up big signs. So, hey, you're welcome here. And this is the guy who's used to work here. And please get in here. And there are some signs, but it's not very intuitive. So we proposed, together with the structural engineer, to open up a bigger part of this concrete slab, which is a bit going against the structure of the building. So heritage-wise, it's a tricky thing, but we found it crucial for the quality of the building. And for the rest, we kept the middle zone as a sort of a central axis at the concrete middle zone. And at certain points where possible, we opened up both the facades. So you felt the width of the building where possible. The gray part is all the central facilities, and the rest are education rooms or meeting rooms. And then when you will enter the exit the lift, you can see not only the central axis of concrete, but you also can look into the bigger education rooms on both sides, or the working areas. So it's opening up and you can see what's happening, you see people. So making this building a bit more social than it used to be. Here we look back from a big education room to the lift, and you can see the concrete slab is still visible, as is the central concrete core running along on our left side. We still have to make suspended ceilings, but they're climatically activated, so they're active ceilings. By that, we can minimize the amount of air and maximize the amount of height in the spaces. A lot of research floors and office floors as well. And here you can see these terrible small 180 rooms, which they wanted to have all the scientists focusing, which meant that we had to make operable parts every 180 in the room. Last but not least, we'll get to the crown, which was interesting. There used to be a technical floor as being the top floor, so the technical stuff has the best views of the building. And we said, well, maybe we can keep the technical stuff there, but add an additional meeting floor on top of that as a crown of the building, making this building really the beacon of the University of Erasmus. This used to be the floor plan, and you can see that's a lot of technical stuff, and it's full with rooms which nobody uses, with some nice spaces somewhere, but it's very closed off, like this. Some patios, some concrete stuff for the lift machines, a lot of electric stuff and cooling and heating and air stuff. And most of it is updated on sort of the same spot, but then we added an extra floor on top of it. We did lose a small balcony at the head of it, which you could hardly access anyway, to have all the installations in there, but we added new patios onto the top layer of the building. So here we can see it during construction. You can see that the facade has been cleaned already. They're taking out the windows for replacement. And on the top, you can see the scaffolding, which is sort of floating on the building for the new top floor. And this is what it will look like, this sort of pavilion on top as a beacon, but still showing the building as it was originally. So it's an addition, but it's recognizable. And it's similar to the plinth building and the entrance there, for instance. So, of course, getting the structure on top of the existing building takes a lot of effort to make it done right, and you have the loads at the right spot. So the columns are free from the facade, for instance, because of the positioning of the columns of the building underneath. Yeah, well, let's leave that. And here you can see, when you get out of the lifts, what will be the new view over the city of Rotterdam. Central heart of daylight, so it always lights up a little bit. It's not too dark. And the old patio of the technical room we used to make new stairs on the left, going down to the first use floor on the 17th floor. The layout is quite flexible. There's a restaurant on the right-hand side, the lift on the left with all the facilities, and there's lots of meeting and the meeting rooms in the center, and coffee and meeting rooms all around it. And this is the restaurant at the top, with nice views over the city of Rotterdam. And then at night you see the Brienenoord Bridge connecting Rotterdam to the south of Holland. So in that sense, this is sort of the renovation where we try to find, to respect the very strong concrete structure of the building, but show it maybe even better than it was done before, and find this potential in this, the hidden potential of this existing brutalist listed building. Thank you.